Hello, everyone. My name is Roger Horwitz. I am the Director of Co-ops here at Solar United Neighbors. Thank you for joining us tonight. This is Solar 101, so Intro to Going Solar. And this is part of our first ever National Solar Congress, which is really exciting. In the past, we had solar congresses in each of the states that we work in. But this year, obviously, with the pandemic, we're doing a virtual National Solar Congress. So thank you for being here. I know we have folks joining us tonight from all over the country, and I really appreciate it. And now I'm going to introduce my colleague, Eric, who's going to go over some housekeeping rules for tonight.
Thanks, Roger. Hi, everybody. My name is Eric Mariani. I am a Go Solar Program Coordinator for Solar United Neighbors, based out of Washington, D.C. So I'm just going to go over some of the basics of the Zoom platform. I'm sure many of you have gotten quite used to it at this point after the past 6 or 7 months, but just in case anyone is not too familiar. So you can join with your audio. So when you enter this, you'll want to choose your microphone and speakers for computer audio. If you select that, you'll be hearing everything over your computer, or you can dial in on your telephone. The way to do that is in the confirmation email that anyone received. There is a telephone number that you can just call, and you'll be able to interact with us that way. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, you can submit them in the chat box. The way to do that is there's a little chat button on the bottom of the screen. If it's not showing up, just give your mouse a little wiggle and you should see a couple buttons appear. You can just click on the little chat box and then type your question in there. So throughout the presentation, I will be answering most of the questions in the chat, but we will also take a little bit of time after each section to just ask some questions aloud, maybe some broader questions that might be good for everybody to know. So we will be going through that throughout and getting anything answered. Also, just something to note, this webinar is being recorded. So if you have to cut out early or you would like to rewatch any section later on, we will be sending you a link to the recording. Anyone who RSVP'd for the event will be getting that. You can also share that link with your friends, family, neighbors, anyone else who you think may be interested in learning more about solar. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the presentation.
Thank you, Eric. So my name again is Roger Horwitz. I'm the Director of Co-ops at Solar United Neighbors. Solar United Neighbors, we are a community of people building a new energy system with rooftop solar at the cornerstone. We help people go solar. So that's the part that we're talking about tonight, how to go solar. We join together and fight for their energy rights. So we represent folks that want to go solar, and we help you go solar, and we hope to be a resource. We also help solar homeowners, and we do lots of advocacy promoting rooftop solar all over the country and in different state legislatures and with public utility commissions, and doing all of that as well. In terms of equity, before we get into the presentation, I want to take a moment to address the inequities in our current energy system. Communities of color, particularly the Black community, bear an unfair share of the costs of energy production, but receive fewer benefits. Families of color are disproportionately harmed by higher utility bills and utility shutoffs. On top of that, housing discrimination is a barrier to home ownership and thus solar ownership. When Solar United Neighbors started with a group of economically and racially diverse neighbors, they focused on solar because it helped people pay their electric bills. It also helped them stay in their homes at a time when Washington, D.C., where we started, was being gentrified quickly, and the whole country was in the middle of a financial crisis in 2008. Rooftop solar lets communities invest locally, creates good local jobs, and brings control of the energy system within our reach. We're working toward a new energy system that everyone can participate in together, one that is fair and equitable. And that kind of previews how we got started. Our executive director, Anya Schoolman, in this picture, on top of her roof, you see her son and his friend. And in 2007, they had just seen the Al Gore movie, An Inconvenient Truth, and they wanted to go solar. So they asked Anya how to go solar, and she started doing research and realized it was actually pretty hard to go solar at that time. So she started the Mount Pleasant Solar Cooperative, and they got a lot of neighbors in the neighborhood of Mount Pleasant in Washington, D.C. together. to go solar together with 50 families, because they realized that if they're doing all of the work and gaining all the knowledge about how to get all the permits and how to find a good solar installer and doing all that research, they should share it with a big group so they could really help spread their impact. So instead of just one family going solar, it would be a whole community. And then folks from all over the country started reaching out to Anya and calling her and emailing her and asking her how they could go solar. And that's how the organization started. And now we work in 13 different states, but we have members in all 50 states of the United States. And we work together to help people go solar. If you look at this map, these are all the states that we are currently operating in. So the majority of you tonight are probably in these states, but even if you're not, we can still help you go solar as well. How we help you go solar, we run our co-ops, which are what Anya started and what we mostly work on. And that's a group process with 50 to 100 neighbors. And it's a 6 to 8 month process. And then we also have an individual membership. So if you're not in a state or you're not in an area where we have a co-op going, we can help you review different solar proposals and help you find solar installers. And we can work together and support you along the way. But I'll talk more about this as we move on. So the presentation tonight is going to be in 3 different parts. And feel free to ask questions, as Eric said, in the chat. And then we'll also be sharing some questions together at the end of each section. So I'm going to start talking about solar technology. How do solar panels work? Solar panels that we're talking about tonight, it's rooftop solar, it's solar photovoltaics. So we're not talking about solar hot water heaters. We're talking about making electricity with solar panels, because that's really what we focus on. And solar panels, which are also called solar modules, they convert solar energy to electricity. So if you see in this diagram how solar works, the sun is shining, and then the sun is shining and the solar panels are producing electricity, and that's number 1. And then the electricity goes to number 2, which is a solar inverter. And what an inverter does is the power from the sun is DC, and our houses run on AC. So the inverter needs to take that energy, it needs to convert it into energy that's usable in our homes to power our refrigerators and our lights and our other appliances. And you can see the light bulb being powered by the solar. So the solar inverter takes the electricity and then it goes into the home's electrical panel, which is number 3 in the diagram, and it's powering that light bulb. And then it's going to the utility meter, and then it's going back into the electrical grid. So the way that solar works is most homes use a lot of electricity during the daytime, but they also use a lot of electricity at night. So the majority of folks don't end up installing batteries, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. So what they do is during the day, most folks who have solar, the sun is powering their appliances in their house, but then at night, they get electricity from the utility grid, and that powers the appliances in their homes. And then during the day, let's say that it's not a pandemic and everyone isn't working from home. In that case, a lot of folks would be generating more electricity at their home than they can use during the day. So they will actually be exporting electricity onto the electrical grid. So it'll be going up those wires and be going to their neighbors' homes. Important terminology that I'm going to use a lot tonight and we'll talk about kilowatts and kilowatt hours. So a system is measured in kilowatts. I have solar panels on my house, and I have a 6.8 kilowatt system, and that tells you how much electricity can be produced at once using your system. But electricity production is in kilowatt hours, because that takes this amount of electricity that can be produced, and then it changes it into the amount of electricity that your appliances are actually using. So when you get your electric bill, it's in kilowatt hours. It's kilowatts used in an hour as an installment. So most homeowners install between 2 and 12 kilowatts. And then, but we'll talk about that more in a little bit. So if you look at a solar panel or a solar module, here you'll see that it's made up of a lot of different materials. There's a frame and there's glass, and then the encapsulant, the solar cells, which are made of silicon. And you see the back sheet and the junction box and back, and they're actually pretty thin. And then you can see a solar array. And a solar array is a group of modules that are put together, and that's what we would call a solar system. And then a solar system has inverters that I talked about before. And inverters take the electricity that your panels are producing, and it takes that electricity, and then it makes it usable in your house. And there are 3 types of inverters here. The most important thing really is that your solar installer that you're working with will tell you the best kind of inverter for your house, or the folks like me that you're working with at Solar United Neighbors will be able to talk to you about your solar system and about what you should be using. So you don't need to try and figure out all of this on your own. That's why we're here. We are here to help people go solar and to support you. A string inverter, the red and black box, that really works like Christmas lights. All of the panels are connected in a string. So if one goes out, all of them go out. And that works fine for ground mounts and for a lot of systems that don't have any shade, or if your house is in the middle of a field, you don't have trees, or you don't have neighbors or tall buildings nearby. Those tend to work pretty well. A microinverter generally is what you're more likely to see in a city or in a place where there are a lot of trees, because it means that each panel is controlled on its own with a little inverter behind it rather than a big box somewhere. And what the microinverters do is that way, if there is a tree and that's shading some of the solar panels, the other solar panels can still produce at full capacity. And then a string inverter with DC optimizers is a combination of the two. So it's a string inverter, but it has optimizers so the different panels can produce at different levels at the same time without underproducing. Because a string inverter really is not designed for a place where there's a lot of shade, because if one panel is underproducing, all the panels will underproduce, which is why you think of a string inverter for a farm or a big field or somewhere where there's absolutely nothing to block the sun, no chimneys or anything like that. And then we have your electrical panel. We are all familiar with how electrical panels work. They're in every home. And how does your solar connect to your electrical panel? It's really simple. Most home electric systems don't need upgrades before you go solar. Usually they just connect the solar to the bottom where you don't have any switches there. But when you have an installer come and talk to you and they look at your electric bill, or if they come and do a home visit, they will be able to look at your electrical panel and tell you if you need an upgrade. And generally, if your home has had electric work done in the past 20 years or so, you will not need an upgrade. But they'll let you know if you do. And then, of course, we have racking. You can put solar panels on any type of roof. And there are lots of different ways that solar panels are connected. Solar modules are connected. Here you can see this is an asphalt shingle roof, which is the most common type. And there's racking that's put on the roof there. But as I said, any type of roof, you can, there's a system that has been invented for connecting solar panels to those type of roofs. You can see they use clamps on standing seam metal roofs, ballast if there's a flat roof. A lot of the time they don't actually make a hole in the roof. They'll just put a weight up there just to hold down the solar panels. The installer might use flashing on a standing seam or on an asphalt shingle roof. And you can see pitch pockets and standoffs, and there are a lot of different options. This is actually my boss's roof. It's a standing seam metal roof, and they don't actually make any holes on the roof when they put the solar panels on. They just use clamps to clamp the panels on to the metal seams here. This is a flat roof. This is the type of roof I have in my house. I live here in Washington, D.C., and you can see they don't actually touch the roof at all, but they take these aluminum racks, and those are connected to the brick on the outside of the roof, and they drill just into the brick there, and that's how my solar panels look on the roof of my house here in Washington, D.C. And then, of course, ground-mounted solar is a great option if you have the space for it. Obviously, it's a lot more common in rural areas. The great thing about ground mounts is you can put them not on your roof, so you don't need folks to get all the way up on your roof. You don't need to worry about if you eventually need to replace the roof or anything like that. Also, a ground mount, because there's not existing structure there, the installer can make it so that they are facing due south and getting the most sun to get the most bang for your buck. And that brings us to talking about what's a good roof for solar. Facing south is the best, but also facing east and west really is pretty good as well. Solar panels have gotten a lot better over the past 10 years and a lot more efficient. So in the past, they might have only wanted to put solar panels facing south, but now most installers are good with putting them facing east or facing west as well. The only direction that's really not good for solar is facing north. But if you have a flat roof or a roof with just a little bit of a slope, sometimes they can put panels facing the north and that will work as well. You're also looking to make sure that your roof has enough space to mount solar panels. So the more things that are popping out of your roof, if you have a lot of chimneys or any pop outs coming out of your roof, that can impact your ability to put solar on there. And also shading is not good. That being said, it really depends on what the shading is like. So it's worth talking to us, and we can look at your roof and advise you on it. Sometimes you just need to trim a tree a little bit, or sometimes the tree might, like for my house, my neighbor's house is 1 story taller than my house. So we have our panels facing to the west instead of facing due south. So that way they get more light in the afternoon, and that way they're not impacted by the neighbor's house being 1 story taller than my house. And then system components, we're going to talk about batteries now. I have to say most folks do not end up getting batteries. Batteries are really, really awesome. And it's really interesting to see what battery technology has evolved into recently. And we're going to be talking a lot more about batteries this week as part of the National Solar Congress. So I definitely encourage you to go check out our battery sessions. And when the grid is down, in the same way that for a long time, folks have been getting generators for their homes, a battery works like a generator. And when the grid is down, your solar shuts off. And that's a safety mechanism because you don't want your electricity going back onto the grid and injuring the line workers. And your solar system automatically shuts off when the grid goes down. But the problem means that if you lose power, even though you have solar panels on your roof, if your community loses power, you lose power as well. So you need batteries if you want power during power outages. And then you might want batteries for the same reason that you'd want a generator. If you have frequent utility outages, if you have a lot of trees and they knock down power lines a lot, that's a good reason to get a battery. If you have critical loads at home, like you have well water and your well pump doesn't work when you use electricity, or if you have important medical equipment that can't go off, or just if you really like to be prepared, having a battery is a great idea. The thing is, the price of solar, you'll see in a little bit, has gone down tremendously. But the price of batteries still is rather expensive. So we usually don't advise people to get batteries unless they're interested in batteries for one of these reasons. And I'll talk to you here about an example battery system. This is a real battery system that has been installed through Solar United Neighbors. The Johnsons lose power from the utility several times a year. Each time the power is out for the entire day. It takes the crew a while to get there. So they decided to install a 6 kilowatt hour battery bank. And this battery bank gets fully recharged by solar every day. And without the sun shining, they have 1 day of power. So it'll run their house for an entire day. But it won't power the entire house. It will power the refrigerator. Because you can choose with a smart battery what you want the battery to power. So they choose to power their refrigerator, a small microwave, some lights and some outlets for charging their phones or charging their computers, and they choose to power their cable modem so they can still have internet. They choose not to power their stove, their dryer, and their electric water heater because the battery isn't capable of doing that. So example battery cost you see here, that for a average size solar system, the price is $15,500, but for the battery storage, it's $9,000. So batteries are not a great bang for your buck because solar does save you money, but batteries currently don't save you money in most places, and there are some exceptions. And also, I'm giving a presentation about the entire country. We work in a lot of different states. The economics of batteries are much better, for example, in Arizona than they are here in Washington, D.C. So it's definitely worth reaching out to us and talking to the Solar United Neighbors folks that are working in your state to figure out if you're interested in batteries. Great, so that is how solar works. And then net metering is something that you'll hear me talk about a lot. Net metering is one of the ways that you make money and save money by not paying an electric bill with solar. So net metering allows the flow of electricity to and from the customer. So when it's the daytime, you might be producing extra electricity and that's going out into the electrical grid. And then at night, you'll be getting electricity from the electrical grid. So net metering ensures that if you're producing 1 kilowatt hour of electricity, that equals 1 kilowatt hour of electricity that's consumed. So your extra electricity flows back through the meter, and you receive a credit on your power bill for that excess production. That credit can roll over month to month. At the end of the year, any surplus energy is credited at a wholesale rate. So that's how net metering works. And because of net metering, excuse me, because of net metering, most folks don't need batteries because the electrical grid basically works as your battery. Because even when your system isn't producing electricity, you're able to get power from the electrical grid. And I'm happy to talk more about net metering. There are often a lot of questions about that. And also feel free to write into the chat and Eric can help answer your questions about that. So when you get your bill with net metering, it's the amount of electricity that you used minus the electricity that you produced, and that's your monthly electric bill. And here is an example electric bill. You don't need to worry about the fine print here. I realize it might be kind of hard to see. And also, we'll be sending this presentation out afterwards, so you can see more on there. And obviously, results vary depending on where you are. But the point of this is just to show you that right, your electric bill drastically changes because not only are you taking less power from the grid, but you're also able to export any excess electricity that you produce. And folks often have questions about warranties, homeowners insurance, maintenance, and all of these topics. So I'm gonna cover those. Give me one sec. So in terms of warranties, when we have our co-ops, the really interesting thing about our co-ops is that the members of the co-op pick the solar installer themselves, not Solar United Neighbors. But folks are really, really interested in having good warranties. So that's one of all solar panels have warranties, all solar systems have warranties, and there are 3 different types of warranties that you'll learn about. One is the actual warranty on the solar panels themselves. Another is the labor and workmanship warranty. So there will be a warranty, for example, 5 to 10 years usually, that if there are any roof leaks as a result of putting on solar, the installer will come back and fix those. And also feel free to type in more questions about that. In terms of homeowners insurance, it's definitely worth calling your homeowners insurance and letting them know that you have solar. That's important because if there are any problems or if at your house you want your solar panels covered under your insurance policy as well. Usually your homeowner's insurance does not go up drastically with solar panels. And if they do, you can talk to us and we can help you find an insurance company where your policy will not go up. Most homeowners insurance is based on the value of the house. So usually your insurance will go up slightly. But we've also heard about customers where their insurance stays exactly the same, or others where their insurance company has a green discount, so they'll actually save money. In terms of maintenance, there are no moving parts on solar panels, which is great. So they require very little maintenance. Usually for most folks, that you have an app on your phone, or you get emails to your email if you so choose about how your system is doing. And if you notice any problems, you can call your solar installer and ask them what's going on. Most panels do not require any maintenance. We usually recommend that you have a solar installer come out every 5 years or so and just look at your system and see how everything's looking. And solar panels all have warranties about how long they last. And most panels have a 25-year warranty that they will produce electricity for at least 25 years. And some even have 30-year warranties. So you know the system will last a long time. And most panels also have power production warranties. So it's not just saying that the panels will still be there, but it's saying that most panels, the warranty says that the manufacturer is certifying that the panels will produce at least 90% of the electricity that they're currently producing 25 years from now. So when you buy a refrigerator, there's not a warranty that it'll work 90% as efficiently in 25 years. So it's really great. Solar panels, because they don't have moving parts, they really do last a long time. And then will homeowners associations allow solar on your home? That's a really common question. It really just depends on what state you're in. A lot of states have rules that homeowners associations are required to allow solar on your home, and same about rules about if you're in a historic district, but it really just depends where you're located. So I definitely recommend that you reach out to us And I'll share an email address for me at the end, but I can help connect you with the staff in your specific state, and they can help answer that information. Okay, and now we're going to pause and go to Eric and see if there are any questions that me and Eric can answer for the entire group.
Sure. So we did get a few questions just wondering about replacing a roof, if we recommend doing that before a solar installation, or if there are options to do roof work after solar goes up.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, I definitely would recommend. It's pretty expensive, as you can see. Solar is a major investment, and taking panels off of a roof is often pretty expensive as well. You'll see when you get quotes from solar installers, but usually they tell you how much it costs to take the panels off your roof and to put them back on again. And often it's 20% of the price of going solar. So it can be fairly expensive. So we definitely recommend that you have the installer look at your roof, or that you have a roofer come and look at your roof before you put on solar. And the best time to go solar is always if you've done a recent roof repair and your roof is going to be good for a while. So I would definitely recommend looking at your roof, or having a licensed roofer, or a lot of solar installers also are roofers as well, having them look at your roof and talking to them, and seeing how long it's going to last. Because as I just said, most systems do last 25 years or so, if not longer. So it's really better they can always take off several panels if there's a minor issue just in one area. But in general, if your roof is old and you think it's near the end of its useful lifespan, it's better to do the roof repair or roof replacement before you go solar. Anything else, Eric?
Yeah, and then we just had a couple comments about warranties. So if you could just maybe elaborate a little bit more on the difference between product warranty, performance warranty, and then installation and labor.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I realize that we're covering a lot of information tonight, so there's a lot to learn, and me and Eric do this every day. But usually there are 3 types of warranties that you'll see. One is on the solar panels and the inverters themselves, and those are from the manufacturer. And those warranties are the most important. And the good thing about those is that because they're with the manufacturer, so they're with big companies that make a lot of solar panels, a lot of the time, even let's say if your solar installer, which is a smaller company, goes out of business in 5 years, if you have a warranty from the solar panel manufacturer, there will be a licensed contractor that can do warranty repair work on those solar panels, or replace them, if a panel or an inverter breaks. So most solar panels have about a 25-year warranty, and that's one of the really important questions to ask your installer. But that's pretty common industry-wide. There are definitely some that have a little bit shorter of a warranty, and some that have a 30-year warranty now. But that's in terms of the solar panels themselves. You'll also have a warranty for the solar inverter. And the inverter is the box, or the little boxes that take the electricity from the solar panels and then actually put it into your electrical box at home. So that's the warranty on the actual equipment. There's also something called a power production warranty, and that's from the manufacturer of the solar panels. So for example, LG is a very well-known solar panel manufacturer. LG will have usually a 90% power production warranty. And they are saying that your solar panels, 25 years from right now, will still produce 90% of the electricity that they are currently producing. So that's another warranty saying that not only are the panels going to work, but they're going to work well for a long period of time. And it's not like after 25 years, the panel will just turn off. But usually the way that panels work is about 0.5% of the production is lost every year as they get older. So it might be 100% now, and then in 25 years, it might be 90%, but then they're still expected to work for a little bit after that. But that's a power production warranty, and those are both from the manufacturer. And there's also a labor and roof penetration. It's often called a workmanship guarantee. or warranty, and that's from the actual solar installer themselves. So for example, if you were in Columbus, Ohio, and you are working with a solar installer there, their company will offer a labor warranty and a roof penetration warranty, which is often saying that if there are any problems, for example, if there were problems with the wiring, or if there's a problem where there's a leak in a roof, which is not very common at all, but if that were to happen, they'll usually have a warranty that's usually 5 or 10 years. Some installers will have a 25-year warranty, saying that not only are the panels covered and the inverters covered, but leaks to the roof and the cost of them having someone come out and repair any wiring or anything like that. That's included in those warranties also. But I think warranties are really important. Most folks that go solar and that we help go solar, the number one most important thing to them often is the warranty. And folks usually are really interested in going, even more so than price in my experience. I've seen that folks are really interested in working with solar installers who have really good warranties. That's definitely very common in my experience. Anything else, Eric, or should we move on?
We can move along. Thanks, Roger.
Okay, great. And feel free to ask more questions in the chat. And also, we'll have more time for questions about solar co-ops and about the economics of solar and financing solar. So this part is about how solar co-ops work. It's going to be the shortest section. Also, I know some folks here tonight are not interested in solar co-ops because we don't operate in their states, perhaps. So we'll also be talking about how to go solar on your own as well. So going solar with a co-op, why do we recommend that? You get the best value on your installation. We support you throughout the process. So if you have questions, you're not just talking to a solar installer who's in the business of making money from you. We're a nonprofit, and our goal is to help people go solar. So we are neutral. We are not picking the installer. We're not on the side of the installer. We want to help support you and help you figure out what's going on, and help you decide, hey, should I go with the upgrade or not go with the upgrade? And that's what we're there for. So we are supporting you throughout the process. Also, joining a solar co-op is a great way to connect with other fellow solar enthusiasts in your area, and it's a great sense of community being part of the co-op, and you get to become part of a growing solar movement. This is the co-op process right here, and while it sounds like a long time, because we're saying here it's an 8-month process, this is the entire lifespan of the co-op. It's often much shorter, because you might be joining in month 3, and then we have an installer in month 4, and you sign your contract in month 4. So maybe it's only actually 2 months from you joining the co-op to actually getting solar panels put on your roof. But it also really depends on where you live and everything. So I'm going to run through this process. The first step in the first couple months is learning about the solar co-op, doing what you're doing tonight, attending an info session, watching videos on our website, reading the FAQ, talking with friends and neighbors who have maybe gone solar. And then signing up for a co-op, which you can do on our website. We encourage people to sign up for the co-op and then to help grow the solar co-op. And that is really just telling friends, telling neighbors, posting on Facebook or on Nextdoor, telling other people to join the co-op. Once a co-op has 30 participants, or about 30 participants, depending on where you are, we issue an RFP, which is a request for proposal. So we'll send an email out, for example, to 400 solar installers in the Midwest. And all of those solar installers have said that they want to hear from us when we're doing a co-op. So those installers will, depending on the geographic area that they're in, we'll put out this request for proposal, and then they will submit bids to Solar United Neighbors. And then me and Eric and the people on our team get to work, and we review the bids. We call references to make sure that people have had good experiences with the installers. And then we check that all of the installers are licensed, and we make sure that all of the equipment is up to date. And we check about all the warranties, and we put all of this into a document for the folks in the co-op to look at together. And then solar co-op participants come together in what we call a selection committee. And a selection committee really is the heart and soul of the co-op process. And that is participants from the co-op coming together, right now coming together virtually on Zoom with me and with Eric and with our colleagues, and we come together and we'll send you a list of the bids ahead of time. And then we'll usually spend an hour and a half or 2 hours together, and the participants will pick the solar installer for the group. And I need to emphasize, the thing that really sets apart our organization is, aside from the fact that we're a nonprofit and that we don't make money by promoting one installer over the other, or by or we don't get a commission for turning over leads, we don't knock on doors. We want to help people go solar. And the folks in our co-ops come together in the selection committee, and you, the participants, are the folks who actually pick which installer you're going to use. So that really sets us apart, because we're there to guide you through the process, but we're not picking the installer. And then after there's an installer, the installer will do a site visit. A lot of the time now it's a virtual site visit. Sometimes they'll park outside and they'll use a drone and fly it around your house to look at your roof. Other times they'll just look at Google Maps, and then they'll have a Zoom meeting with you, or they'll do an in-person meeting, obviously from far away with social distancing and masks and all that stuff. And installers have really worked really well during COVID at coming up with new practices to make sure that everyone is safe. And then the thing is that all of the pricing that you get and your bid will be based on the solar co-op's pricing that the installer has given. So folks get this lower co-op pricing from the installer because they have one price per watt for everyone in the solar co-op. So usually the more people in the solar co-op, the lower pricing you'll get, because the installers have an incentive. Instead of one person going into an office and saying, hey, I want to go solar, Solar United Neighbors and you're coming together with 50 people, let's say, and saying, hey, we have 50 folks that want to go solar. What kind of discount can we get? And then the installer is giving you your proposal based on your roof and based on your electric bill. It's really important that you have your electric bill and that you share that with us or share that with the solar installer, so that they can see how much electricity you're using. Because most utilities in most states have rules about you can only produce as much electricity as you're using, or maybe you can produce a little bit more. But if your house is really energy efficient and you don't use a lot of air conditioning, it doesn't make sense to put up 500 solar panels on your roof. Also, your roof may not have room for 500 solar panels. So after that, you'll sign a contract with the installer, and then it'll go into permitting, and they'll get all the materials, and then they'll install the solar system. And then we usually have a party. Right now we're having virtual parties where people share pictures of their system and talk about going solar and celebrate your successes. And that is the solar process. And as I said before, co-op members pick the solar installer. And we ask you a question when you join our co-ops, which many of you may have done already. We ask you to rate which of these things is most important, so that even though there may be 50 members in the co-op and maybe only 15 of them can actually come to the selection committee to help pick the installer, those 15 members will know basically what is most important to all of the other members that aren't there. Is it price, the equipment quality, the warranties, experience, or the local company? So that's how solar co-ops work. I'll stay on this screen while me and Eric answer any questions that you have about that. Also, if you're not with a solar co-op, I realize 13 states is not 50 states. So in areas where we don't have staff on the ground, me and Eric and the other folks on our team can help you. And we have a system, and we can help you find solar installers in your area if you're interested in being an individual member. And we can help you find it, and we can help you look at those proposals together and go over what kind of questions you should ask and help out with that as well. Okay, thanks. Eric, any questions about co-ops?
Yeah, we did have a question, just wondering if there's a big price difference between going solar on your own and going solar in a co-op.
That's a great question. And I will, during our next section, you'll see the average pricing. On average, and I have to say this is definitely an average, and it depends on the state. Folks usually save about 17% on average by being part of our co-ops, but it really also depends. Also, it depends on the selection committee and where you are, because Often folks don't actually pick the cheapest installer. You know, a lot of co-ops do, but sometimes co-ops will say we want the installer with the most experience, or we want to work with the solar installer that has the best warranty. So that 17% is an average of all of our states, you'll see that graphed out in a little bit. Eric, anything else? Should I move on?
Yeah, we did have a few questions going back to solar tech. If you could elaborate a little bit more just on the difference between microinverters and string inverters, just like in terms of efficiency and kind of how they perform.
Yeah, so when you, that's a great question. And the other thing that's really important to know is that we are here to help, and the installers are also here to help, so they can help you pick out the right one for you. Usually a string inverter is the cheapest option, and a string inverter with optimizers is in the middle, and then microinverters tend to be the most expensive. But basically the way the technology works is a string inverter works like Christmas lights, where if since all of your panels are connected in a row, so 1, 2, 3 panels, and there's a wiring going between them. So if one panel stops functioning, all of the panels will stop functioning. There may be an absolute easy fix for that, but string inverters are the most affordable option, and they also work really, really well. It's just they don't work in areas where there's a lot of shading. Because you want all of your panels to be facing the same direction. So, all in a row or all in one roof surface, and there needs to not be any shade that's blocking any of the panels. The reason that folks use microinverters is because each panel can produce different amounts of electricity. So for example, if you have an east-west roof and you only have room for half of your panels on one side of your roof and half of your panels on the other side, a string inverter wouldn't work because the panels would be getting different amounts of sun at different times. So you would need either a microinverter or a string inverter with optimizers. And optimizers work like microinverters to balance out the efficiency. Most folks end up going with a string inverter with DC optimizers, in my experience, just because that tends to be a good option. And it tends to be a little bit more affordable than microinverters. But also, you'll see there are a lot of different options that installers have. Some installers will have a premium for using microinverters, but some just have that included in the price. And also right now, you're even seeing some solar panels that have the microinverters built into them, which is common as well. Eric, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I don't think so. I think that pretty much covers it.
Great. Okay. Well, I'm going to move on to the economics, and then when I'm done with that, me and Eric are happy to stick around and ask more questions as well. So solar economics is the thing that most folks are most interested in, and because we do operate in 13 states, and we have the entire country. Everywhere pricing is very, very different. So I know I may sound like a broken record, but this is based on the average, and it's all very different. So you can see the price of solar has come down drastically. It's fallen over 50% since 2010. You can see that a 5 kilowatt system in 2010 was $32,000, and the average 5 kilowatt system in 2014 was $17,000, and now all of a sudden the average across the entire country, it varies depending on city and state, is under $15,000 as of 2018. And this represents 2018 as the last year, but what we've seen in 2019 and 2020 so far is prices really have leveled off right at that same amount. So just under $3 a watt is about the average nationally. And then you can see, to the question that was just asked about our average co-op pricing, is you can see that our average co-op pricing has been a little bit less. So it just depends, but you can see in 2018, $2.98 per watt compared to $2.42 per watt. And a 5 kilowatt system is an average sized house system. That being said, the other thing to note here is just that pricing really is different based on where you live. A lot of rural areas, solar tends to be more expensive because a lot of the pricing from a solar installer is really based on where they're located and how far they need to drive to you. So if you're near their office, sometimes your pricing will be cheaper than if you're far away. Also, a lot of the time it can be harder and more expensive to do installations in a city. So for example, I live in Washington, D.C. Solar is more expensive here than if you were to drive to the suburbs 45 minutes from here. Just because it's, there's the cost of parking in the city. There's the cost of paying to get some meters blocked so that the installation trucks can go in front of your house and stuff like that. So it really just varies depending on where you are. So this is breaking down the cost of solar. You can see here, solar co-ops help reduce installers' soft costs so that you can save money. Then the question is, what is a soft cost? And you can see here that the reason the price has been going down of solar since 2010 is that the price of system components has gone down a lot. So system components means the racking, the wiring, the inverter, the solar panels. The cost of those since 2010 has gone down from 50% of the price to 31% of the price. And the cost of labor has also gone down slightly as well. You can see that's the gray bar in the middle. But the one cost that does not go down is soft costs. Soft costs are the cost of acquiring customers. A lot of solar installers have people going door to door asking if you want to go solar. Paying those folks that go door to door, that's the soft cost. Paying the person who answers the phone in the office, paying the salesperson, paying all, the rent on an office or the rent on a warehouse. All of those are the soft costs. And the customer acquisition cost, a lot of the time solar installers use third-party consultants to help them find customers. So that's really where we help installers save money, which is a reason that they can offer lower costs to you as customers, is because we're coming to them with a group of 30 or 50 or 100 or sometimes even 200 homeowners. They don't need to go door to door. They are getting all of these potential customers right from us. It's really important that that one of the reasons that so many people have been going solar and there is such a rush to go solar, particularly at the end of the year. If you're in a co-op right now, you may have noticed that a lot of installers are saying, we need you to sign a contract in 1 week or 2 weeks from right now in order to guarantee that your system will be installed by the end of the year. Some installers are already saying, we're already booked up through the end of the year. We can't do any more installations. So there's something called the federal tax credit for solar. And in 2019, it was 30%. So 30% of your solar installation, you could get back as a tax credit the following year. That was last year in 2019. In 2020, it's a 26% credit, but next year it's going to be a 22% credit. So that's why a lot of folks are rushing at the end of the year, and this happened last year as well, to get in before the deadline. So when is the best time to go solar? As soon as you can, based on the tax credit. But also, it depends on when's best for you as well. Because we don't want to rush anyone into a decision. It is it's an expensive proposition going solar. This table is pricing for West Virginia. I realize that a large percentage of people here do not live in West Virginia. We had to pick one state to use, and that's a state that we operate in. So I'm just going to go through with you here pricing in West Virginia for a 4 kilowatt system, which is a small sized house system. So for example, for my house, that would power a little more than half of our electricity needs with a 4 kilowatt system. And the pricing varies depending on what state you're in, of course. But in West Virginia, which is a pretty average price state, the average pricing in a solar co-op in West Virginia we found is $2.64 per watt. So you multiply that by 4,000 for 4,000 watts for a 4 kilowatt system, and that's just over $10,000 here. And then we can see that the federal tax credit at 26%, which is this year. Next year, it'll be 22%. Once you get that back when you do your taxes, that brings the cost of solar for the smaller system to $7,800. Then we estimate that your first year, you'll save $600 on electricity. And the reason the 10-year savings is high is a little bit more than the 1-year savings times 10. When you look at these numbers here, is that the price of electricity on average goes up about 2% a year. So your savings actually increase as time goes on, because even though your system may be producing a little bit less power every year, the price of electricity is usually going up more than the little bit that your system decreases in production every year. So based on this chart in West Virginia, which some of you live in West Virginia, many of you do not, but just as an average example of one of our states that we operate in, after 25 years, we estimate that you will have saved $17,500 in electric bills. And then when you take that out of the net cost, that's a saving or a net profit of $9,700. And then, an 8 kilowatt system is double that, and a 12 kilowatt system is 3 times that. But your system size will also vary tremendously depending on how much electricity you use and your roof size, et cetera. So this is a chart from last year with a 30% tax credit, and it's just showing you your cumulative savings with solar, and this is on average, based on an average pricing for a 7 kilowatt solar system. So you can see here that in your first year, folks are spending a lot of money, almost $20,000, but then after the cost of your solar system, after your 30% credit, or this year after your 26% credit, or next year at 22% credit, that brings down the pricing a lot. And then you can see the dark blue line there is how much money you're saving. So after 25 years on average in our state, based on average pricing, you save about $20,000 with a 7 kilowatt system. And then you can see a 10-year loan versus a 15-year loan. The advantage of a 15-year loan versus a 10-year loan is that you have a lower monthly payment every month. But you can see that your total savings, I mean, the good thing about loans is that you're not outlaying all of this money. If you look at the amount of money that you're spending here, you never get as far into the negative hole with loans there. You don't make quite as much money with your net profit on loans. And also, we are not a loan company. We're a nonprofit that promotes solar. So we don't have any loan products that we recommend. We can help you find a loan. We definitely talk a lot about solar financing. A lot of installers work with different loan products. We also work with a nonprofit, the Clean Energy Credit Union, and they do solar loans. But we can help you find the best solution for you in terms of your pricing or in terms of financing, because most folks do end up financing their solar with the loan, just because of the high cost of solar. And there are a lot of different options. A lot of the time, folks refinance and then take some money out and use that to go solar. Or there's actually an option that please feel free to contact us and we can talk to you more about it. There's an option through the FHA to do a solar loan where you can refinance your house and add on the price of a solar system with your refinance as well. There are many different options for actually pricing out how you would go solar in terms of making the finances work. Here we're talking about the loans, standard loans, solar loans, bridge loans. A bridge loan is a loan. So for example, let's say that you have the cash, or let's say you're borrowing money for the 74% of your solar system. That extra 26%, a bridge loan would loan you the money. And then as soon as you file your taxes next year, you'd get that 26% tax credit and you'd pay back the bridge loan. So often there's 0% bridge loans just to get you through getting that tax credit back next year. I talked about refinancing and including the solar system, the Clean Energy Credit Union. HELOC is a home equity line of credit. And usually home equity lines of credit tend to have the lowest interest rates, but it really depends on your situation. Also, if you're in a rural area and if you have a rural business, there are REAP grants, and we can help you with that as well. And those can often cover a big percentage of of going solar. Also, there are third-party ownership options, and those are not in every state, but in some states those exist. And those a PPA, a power purchase agreement, or a lease. A solar company would put the panels on your roof. We usually don't recommend power purchase agreements. They're a great option for getting solar. But if you're not sure how long you're going to be in your home, power purchase agreements can often be a problem, because you do sign a 25-year contract with the installer usually, that you will be buying electricity from the installer, and they'll be for 25 years at a discounted rate. But one of the problems with those is it can make selling your house a little bit more difficult, because you need to transfer over the power purchase agreement. Also, you don't save as much money in the long run. So it's definitely better financially, if you can, to buy a system on your own. What's next? Okay, Solar United Neighbors. We do lots of advocacy as well. So aside from going solar, we also recommend you go on our website, sign the Solar Bill of Rights. We do I Love My Solar postcards to elected officials and remind them how important it is to support solar and to support rooftop solar. We ask our representatives in different states to join the solar caucuses in their states. We have solar action teams in all of our states, and people write postcards or write letters or film videos and send them to elected officials, or when we used to do in-person events, do in-person lobbying, urging their state leaders to help promote rooftop solar policies. And also sometimes utilities want to end solar or want to end net metering, or things like that. So we fight for energy rights, and we work with all of the solar homeowners. So once you go solar, we also have a solar owner member option, and we have a lot of different options, and we have people volunteer with us, and we advocate on behalf of solar. So thank you. My name is Roger, and I work with Eric. I'm the director of co-ops based in Washington, D.C. for Solar United Neighbors. If you have any questions, tomorrow we'll be sending you an email with a recording of tonight's presentation and with links to join the co-ops. But if you have any questions, you can also email us. I answer all the emails at info@solarunitedneighbors.org. So feel free to email us. And also, if you want to be connected with folks in your state, I can help connect you with folks in your state as well. And then that's it for my presentation. Me and Eric would love to stick around. If you need to go, we will understand, of course. But if you have any questions, feel free to add them, and I will answer as many as we have time for.
Great. So we do have a couple questions relating to the tax credit. First off, just any updates on the ITC. And I'm sorry if I kind of missed this, Roger. I was answering questions in chat.
That's fine.
And also just the difference between a tax credit and a tax refund.
So that is one of the things that Solar United Neighbors spends a lot of time working on, is we spend a lot of time advocating and doing and educating lawmakers about how important solar is, how it's really good because it produces a lot of green jobs, and these are jobs that can't be outsourced, and about how much money it saves solar homeowners. And obviously, we are big proponents of solar. So we are hoping that every Congress we are working to try and get the tax credit to go back to 30% from the 26% it's at next year, and to try and keep it going down from 22%. And also the year after 22%, after 2021, it's supposed to disappear. And we really don't want that to happen, because that would really hurt folks going solar. So there are no updates, but we're very hopeful. And that's something that we are always working on. That is one of our top priorities, is not getting the tax credit to go away. The important thing that Eric brought up, for whoever asked this, is that it is a tax credit and not a tax refund. So if you don't pay taxes for any reason, for example, if you're a nonprofit and you want to go solar, and nonprofits don't pay taxes, or if you are or if you're retired and you don't have taxable income, the tax credit will not be helpful if you do not pay taxes. I mean, obviously you can get a tax refund if you work and you pay taxes, because that's how tax credits work. But if you don't actively pay taxes, then you won't be able to get the tax credit. There are a lot of workarounds that folks do to help nonprofits go solar, or to help folks go solar. A lot of installers that we've worked with, it really just depends on the installer. So there's a great question to ask, or to ask our staff. If, for example, in Western Pennsylvania, in the Pittsburgh, in the greater Pittsburgh area, the installer that we work with does a lot of solar installations with retired folks, and because they may not be able to take full advantage of the tax credit, they often do a rent-to-own model, where the installer will take the tax credit for them, and then they will they'll make payments, and after a couple of years they'll own the system. So there are definitely a lot of interesting workarounds that we've seen to do that. And for nonprofits, there are a lot of companies that will do that as well, that will take the tax credit and then give the nonprofit a lower price so they can take advantage of that 26% savings. And also the tax credit can be spread out over multiple years. If you don't make enough money that you pay that much in taxes, right? If you only use half the tax credit in 1 year, Eric, do you know how many years is it? Is it 3 or 5 years? No,
I believe it's 5 years.
5 years. So you can spread it out over 5 years. So if you can't take full advantage of, let's say, a $5,000 tax credit the first year because you don't owe that much in taxes, then you can keep spreading it out over the next years as well.
Great. And then someone else was wondering the average payback period on an installation.
That's a great question. The average payback period on an installation, it really depends on where you live. I am very lucky that I live in Washington, D.C., which we are not a state, so we're not that lucky because we don't have representatives in Congress or senators. But we do have really good solar renewable energy credit policies. So in Washington, D.C., for example, your payback is often less than 5 years. But in a lot of other states where there aren't as many government policies or state credits, the only thing you're getting is the federal tax credit, so that 26%. So then it'll just be your energy savings every year. So I think on average, the states with the slowest payback, it's usually between 12 and 13 years. But a lot of it also depends on your electricity usage. Also, within every state, it really depends on the price that you're paying for electricity. So some utilities have higher prices than other utilities. So that's just one of those things that varies wildly. But same thing, email us and we can send you the info on your state. Also, if you go to solarunitedneighbors.org, which is our website, and click on Go Solar and Co-ops, you can click different solar co-ops in your states, and there will be a pricing table on there, like the one that I shared in West Virginia, that shows you the average pricing in your state.
Great. And then one more question, wondering how long batteries last for.
Usually what I think the Tesla warranty is 10 years. So batteries usually, batteries are really cool and I'm really excited about them as a technology. But I think the pricing will come down a lot because right now, solar, you will save money in the long term. Not immediately, but let's say in some states in 4 years and other states in 12 years, you will save money in the long term with solar. Batteries right now, they have a 10-year warranty and they're still pretty expensive. So that's why for most folks, we recommend not getting batteries because you can use the electrical grid as your battery. That being said, if you're building a cabin and you're going to be off grid, you may need a battery because that's going to do all of the powering of your place. Or if you have medical equipment or you have well water or you lose power a lot and you were thinking of getting a generator, in that case, it can make a lot of sense to get a battery. You definitely hear about some places to get, one battery, but some people get 2 batteries or 3 batteries and they want to power their entire house with batteries.
And then, do you know the status of SREX in Virginia, Roger?
Oh, so for those of you who are not familiar with Virginia, this past year something really exciting happened. Virginia passed the Clean Economy Act, and that's really exciting because Virginia is going to be having much more solar-friendly policies going forward because of that. So I personally do not work on Virginia stuff, so I am not exactly sure when they are coming, but I know that solar renewable energy credits are coming to Virginia, and they are coming in the future. I'm not sure if it's going to be next year or the year after that, but same thing. If you send us an email, or if you all of our states, the state team email. So for Virginia, it's vateam@solarunitedneighbors.org. VA, the abbreviation for Virginia. If you email vateam@solarunitedneighbors.org or email us at me at info, I can forward it on to them. Aaron, who's our Virginia State Director, I'm sure he has a much more precise answer than I know that they're coming.
Great. I think that's the bottom of the chat list. I will say just in general, anyone, if I missed your question in chat, this entire chat box is saved for us. So I will reach out to you using the email that you registered with for this info session and get you your answers if I happen to miss that.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining us. Please go to solarcongress.org and you can see all the other events that are happening. If you didn't get enough solar tonight, tomorrow night, my boss, Corey, is going to be doing a Solar 201, which is the more advanced version, geared towards folks who already have solar and are already solar homeowners, but feel free to join that as well. Also, Eric and I are going to be hosting a meeting, a chat with the Go Solar team, a coffee chat at 3 o'clock Eastern on Wednesday as well. And you'll be able to talk with us and ask more questions there as well. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, Eric, and have a good night.